10 key financial reports for successful practice management. My name is James Metzger. I'm the Vice President of Marketing here at Bizmatics for Prognosis EHR, and I'm joined this morning with Kristen Nehk, who's our Director of RCM Services. Can we do a quick little mic check and say good morning, Kristen?
Good morning.
Thank you. Sounds great. So this morning, we are going to dive right into 10 key financial reports. And one thing I'd like to say about all these reports and having Kristen join us this morning, as the Director of RCM Services here at Bizmatics, Kristen is up to her elbows in this every single day, making sure that the folks that subscribe to Bizmatics RCM Services get the best of the use of all of our RCM team's experience, as well as all of the granular reporting that can be presented from Prognosis EHR in our practice management software. So I'm really excited that Kristen's going to be able to share a lot of this knowledge with us this morning. Kristen's helped many of our clients get into the 99% club, which is a term that we throw around for practices that have been able to achieve 99% repayment on claim submissions, and not just over a brief period of time, but over an entire quarter, 3 months of submissions and getting 99% repayment on those claims. So we're quite lucky to have someone as experienced as Kristen with us to pass along her little tips and tricks on how to get the most out of Prognosis practice management software, and to provide some very deep insight into the kinds of reporting that really help to keep a practice online. So as you see on the screen in front of us, we've got our list of our 10 reports. And as far as the people attending the webinar, I just want you to know that we're going to be making these slides available to everyone automatically via an email. So if you want to take notes, feel free, but the basic list of reports and screenshots of reports, along with the benefits of each report, are already documented in the presentation. So without much further ado, what I'm going to do is pass the ball over to Kristen and allow her to run the show while she is presenting and discussing these great reports. So I'm going to make her the presenter, and then the show's all Kristen's for helping us understand the powerful financial implications of these reports in a practice. So all yours, Kristen. Feel free to take it away and have a blast.
Thank you, James. I hope everyone's having a great Tuesday. So these reports go in order from the EMR side to the billing side. The first report is an EMR-only report. I'm going to show you how to access it. So this is the EMR side of Prognosis. In order to find this report, you would go to Reports, Tabular. Make sure you have the All Reports clicked, and then pull up your binoculars. If you don't have access to any of these reports that we go through, there is a link at the end of the slide to let you know how to get these reports uploaded into your database. The daily collection report by user basically documents everything collected at the time of service in an effort to help the front balance their drawer at the end of the day. It will list each user who posts that particular copay, co-insurance, deductible, patient receipt. It's also going to list the patient's name, their chart number, whether it was cash, check, card, and then their total amount. The comments section here actually comes from the copay screen within Prognosis. Anything you type in that remarks section will pull up here. So if you wanted to leave yourself a note on why a patient paid something, whether it was for a surgery that's going to happen next week or school forms, anything you type will pull on this report. For anyone who uses our RCM, we recommend that they run this report daily and then balance it back to their cash in their drawer, their check totals, and their credit card batch at the end of the day. Going hand in hand with that is our Integrity payment system. Integrity is a credit card merchant who integrates within Prognosis. This feature allows the front to run a card and not have to fully post it as a copay. So as many of you I'm sure are aware, when you get busy, you run a card, you may forget to actually post it in Prognosis, so the balancing at the end of the day can become a little tricky. Integrating with Integrity eliminates that where you may forget to post the credit card transaction. Another benefit of Integrity is that it has an option to save the patient's credit card on file. So the next time the patient comes in, if they want to use the same card, you can rerun the same card without the patient actually having to hand it to you. Our next report is found on the billing side. So we're going to switch from EMR to billing. The bill button is at the top of your Prognosis here, and this switches you over to the financial side of Prognosis. Majority of these reports are found under the Reports tab. The ones that I'm about to go over under Reports Billing, Reports Collection, and Reports Management, as well as Reports Tabular. Oops, there we go. Okay. The first report is an average reimbursement by code by insurance report. This link up here, let me just get my pointer. The first section is going to show you the parameters that you would need to run the report. One, you always want to be in the My Reports, the report name, and then you can select your period. Depending on the data that you're trying to pull, your period may be last month, it could be this month, it may be the first quarter or the second quarter. And the average reimbursement by code report is going to let you know what a particular insurance is paying you for that code and allow you to compare it to your Medicare fee schedule. For example, we have code 10060. It lists out which insurances you billed in the month of May, Aetna, Anthem, Blue Cross, with your paid amounts, and then an average paid amount for that code. So we have Aetna was billed 5 units, they paid $131.13, the average was $26 a unit. This report can also help a practice identify their cost versus profit on a particular procedure. So if a practice knows how much they're spending for vaccines or Botox, they can compare it to what they're bringing in for that and whether or not they're losing money or making money on the procedure. The next report is our charge reimbursement report. This report is found under the Reports Billing tab. And I've listed out the parameters to get to the charge reimbursement report. One, you want to be in the by charges. By charges indicates that you want each CPT listed out versus the by claims, which is only going to list the whole claim and the whole reimbursement. You want to do it by your date of service, pick your date range again, and then there's a little filter. If you click the filter, it brings you into your outstanding and responsibility and your charge code related filters. This allows you to select you want responsibility with a primary, secondary, patient. Payment status would indicate if you only want claims that are paid in full, paid partially, or not paid at all. And then you have your charge code section. So again, if you're looking to analyze the costs on a procedure, for example, Botox, you can select those charge codes, and the report's only going to pull those specific charge codes for you. This is what the report looks like once it pulls. And it's going to give you the date of service, the claim ID, the patient name, the insurance, and again, you can group this by you only want to see Aetna, you only want to see United Healthcare, if you only want to see specific codes. And it's going to tell you what the primary paid versus what you billed and what the primary adjusted. So the other great feature about this report is you can download it to Excel from within Prognosis. And if you take an extra column, hit the equal button, and then take your total billed amount minus your primary adjustment amount and then hit enter, you will get the allowed amount for that particular insurance. So it's going to do something similar to the previous report that helps you analyze what you got paid for that particular claim or charge code. And then again, you can run this report to check any claims that were not paid for the month. So if you run all your dates of service in April, you can analyze the paid ones versus the unpaid ones. And again, we also have ICD-9 codes and ICD-10 codes. You can also do a filter if you want to see how much you got paid for the diabetes diagnosis code on a particular procedure. You can use the filter to narrow that down. This report is under Reports Collections, and it is the daily collection report. This is similar to the one on the EMR side, except the one on the EMR side is only going to list out payments collected at the front, versus the one on the billing side is going to list anything collected at the front, anything received in the mail from your patients, and any insurance payments that have been posted for that month or day. This is also a good checks and balance to bounce back to your bank account. So CPAs, for taxes, you always want to make sure your bank account bounces to what you have in Prognosis so you can provide reports to your CPA. This report is going to allow you to do it. It's going to give you a cash, check, credit card, and EFT amount. It's going to do it by date. This is post date, not date of service. It's going to tell you the check numbers and the types. We have 3 types that pull on this report: EN being collected at the time of service or on encounter, PT being patient receipt, something that you received in the mail or the patient walked in to pay a balance, and then IN, which is your insurance payments. On the totals by section at the top, you have the option to do this by date of service, so it gives you a total for each date that then you can take back to your QuickBooks or your bank statement and make sure everything tallies per day. The Groupable Billing and Collection Report is again found on the billing side under Reports and then Management and Financial Analysis. This report is going to allow you to look at what you've done for the whole year. You can compare what you did last year to this year, or January 2016 compared to January 2017. You can also narrow this down by provider or by location. So if you have more than one provider in your practice and you want to know what their claim counts are, what they're actually bringing in, or you pay that provider based on what they bring in for the month, this is the report that most practices will use to help them narrow down what's being brought in and billed out. As you can see, you have the months listed: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's January, February, March, April, May. Your claim count, charges, payments, and adjustments. RCM uses this report weekly, and it also helps us track if a practice income is on track for that month. So if it's the 15th of the month and we run this report, we would want to see their claim count and their charges at half of what they did last month. If it's less than that, that would indicate that there's a problem. And again, we can narrow it down by provider. Maybe there was a provider that was out sick or on vacation We can narrow it down by that provider to understand if it's just because of that provider or it's on a bigger issue. Similarly, there is a financial analysis one under the same select layout. The difference between the two is that one's going to give you your opening and closing AR, which most CPAs prefer. This next report is found under Reports, Management, and Statistics. And if you go into your Statistics section, you'll notice that this little box pops up with several reports listed. You want to select your date range. I usually do it for the year to date. And then we always do Waterfall 1. You can check Flavor 2 and Flavor 3 and see which one you like best. I prefer the main Waterfall one. This report allows us to look at your date up at the top compared to when you bill that. So for January dates of service, $193,000 was actually billed in January. For February, $212,000 was billed in February and $385,000 was billed in March. So it gives the practice an idea of when they're billing. Are their claims behind? Are they current? Do they get everything out the same month that they see the patients? And then you have your payments part of it, which is crucial for a lot of practices. So this tells you of that $193,000 that you billed in January, how much of it did you actually bring in January? And how much of it came in February? This can help with projecting your income next month. So if on average you get back 60% of whatever you bill the same month, you can estimate the next month's income. So if we do $212,000 this month, you can gauge that about 40% of that is going to come in the next month, while 60% will come into us this month. And then it's going to give you your adjustments. So this also can help you understand, do you make a lot of contractual adjustments, or is it right on standard, which is about 50%? And then at the bottom, it will list out what's still outstanding for those dates of service. For January, how much of that $193,000 hasn't been paid yet, and down through the line. This report's used by a lot of providers to help them understand, again, cash flow. This is our AR rollover report. Now, this report is taking your AR aging from 1 month, comparing it to another month. RCM uses this religiously. So ideally, it's going to help you identify, for example, on 11/9, when we ran this report, the 91 to 120 days claims were at 14,000. And then our 120 plus was at 55,000. Now, if we compare it to 11/29, we can identify that we had a drop of 2,000 in the 91 to 120, but an increase of 2,300 in our 120 plus. And then it's going to help us identify which insurance carriers are we having the increases in, and what do we maybe need to focus on this month. For example, Aetna is up 2,800 in the 91 to 120. So then we can go back into prognosis, go into our outstanding, and pull all the Aetnas that are within the 91 to 120 to work them and identify why they're still there and why they're growing before they roll over to the 120 plus. Our denial management report. This report can be found under Reports Tabular. And if you type in denial, there are several reports that will pull up in prognosis. Now, this is just the denial transaction report. And we've downloaded it to Excel. And we do a pivot table. But if you leave it in its format in prognosis, it will actually list every denial that you've received. It basically tags it for you. So at the end of the month, you can run this report and look at it and say, I had 6 coding denials this month. I had 2 insurance eligibility denials. I had 18 medical records denials. This is putting you on track for the 99% club. So if you look at this and you go into, well, what were my medical record denials what were the 18, and you find out they were all Aetna for a specific CPT code, you may then decide, you know what, I'm going to drop those to paper and or fax the medical records right when I send the claim to avoid that denial next month. For your insurance eligibility, you can actually find out what 2 patients were the denied, and then what could the front desk have done to avoid that denial. And same thing with the coding. What were our 6 coding denials? If they were a particular CPT code, were they because of diagnosis? Was it because we missed a modifier? And again, how are we going to avoid that next month? You can also trend this. So this report pulls everything. You can do it by a date range, or you can just do it for the whole year. And then line up what were my denials in January compared to February, or what were my denials last month compared to this month. Am I improving my coding denials, or are they getting worse? Or is my insurance eligibility denials improving, or again getting worse? And that would indicate maybe I need to go to the front desk and retrain. This next report is also found on the billing side under Reports Tabular. It's the Copay Deductible Collection versus Responsibility Detail. This is again going to help you identify what could we have collected at the time of service that we missed, and now we're chasing it on the back end. As everyone is aware, trying to get money from a patient after they leave is becoming more and more difficult. This report allows you to run it for a particular date range, compare it to what was actually collected at the time of service against what the insurance reported on the EOB should have been collected, and then analyze your deficit. And again, it's going to give you a claim ID so you can find out who that patient was and maybe who collected the money, and maybe I'll sit with them a little bit more and help train them on how to make sure we collect it next time. Insurance paid less than the contract amount. Again, we're in Reports Tabular on the billing side. This report, if you load your contracts into Prognosis as a fee schedule, so you would go into your settings fee schedule, and you would load a fee schedule called Aetna. And you would load in your contracted rates, what you agreed to accept from Aetna. This report will then allow you to compare that with what you posted to identify when you're not getting paid or you're being underpaid. So it's going to tell you for the payer Aetna, for this CPT code, your contract amount says $137.06, but the insurance only allowed $108.78, so there's a difference of $28 on this claim. So then that would lead you to write an appeal or make a phone call to Aetna and say, hey, I've identified several claims where you actually underpaid us, and per my contract with you, you should have paid us $137.06. So this avoids leaving money on the table. A lot of practices don't realize they can put their contracted rates into Prognosis, and this will help you identify easily when you are underpaid. And then lastly, if you're interested in any of these reports and you don't have them, please feel free to reach out to us so we can get them loaded into your database. And if you're interested in integrated payments, reach out to sales, or if you're interested in RCM, reach out to sales as well. Thank you.
Hey, Kristen, that was fantastic. Before we let you run off to run RCM services for the rest of the day, we've got a question from one of our attentive listeners today. And the question is there a report you can run based on reason or remark codes? Is that one of the items that's handled in one of the 10 reports that you've gone through, or is that a separate report, do you think?
By reason, do you mean diagnosis code?
Let's assume that's what they mean, if that's the common question.
Yes, so the charge reimbursement report will let you narrow it down by the diagnosis code.
Got it. So it's the charge reimbursement report. Is that right?
Correct. Yes. And that will help you identify some payers pay higher for certain CPT codes or diagnosis codes right now. So it will help you identify those diagnosis codes and if you are getting paid higher.
Okay. And then before we let you go, we got another question that came in. I hope you don't mind that we're putting you on the spot with a little QA today, kind of unplanned, but I think this is great. People are paying attention and they're really getting a lot of value out of all your experience here. So the question is there a way to load all the reports they utilize so they don't need to go into all the reports each month?
There is a way. If you notice under like the reports tabular, you have that My Reports bubble versus the All Reports bubble. The My Reports bubble allows you to select a set of reports that you want to run every month, and you can title them whatever you want to title them. The way to do that is when you run the report, you have to go into the All Reports. There is a Save button where you can save it under your My Reports and then rename it.
So you can collect a few different reports there under My Reports and just add to it and save it as you add?
Right. So you could have the 10 reports listed under your My Reports, so you don't have to go through the whole reports tabular and try to find it every month.
That sounds like a nice way to put workflow together. And let's see. There's another question here. Let me see if I can. So on the question about the running reports about the reason or remark codes, what was meant was the claim adjustment reason codes or the remittance advice remark codes?
Yes, we do have a report for the claims adjustment. It is called Insurance Adjustment Report, and it is something you can request from support to be loaded, and that will actually give you whether it was a contractual adjustment, a write-off, or an inclusive denial.
Okay. Seems like we've got an interactive group here this morning, so because you're fielding these questions so easily, I'm just going to throw out there to the group of folks that are still on the webinar. If there's any other questions that come to mind, you can use the questions tab in your GoToWebinar dashboard. So if you've got another question, we'll wait for just another 30 seconds to see if they come in. Otherwise, I would really like to thank Kristen for her time today. These reports were very insightful. And again, as a reminder, we're going to be sending out the presentation slide deck to all the folks who attended today. So they'll have this list of reports. And if you aren't seeing these reports in your instance of prognosis, all you need to do is request from support that they be installed, and you will get them installed into your instance of prognosis. So you'll be able to handle all your finances the way that Kristen and the RCM group do to get into the 99% club. So I don't see any new questions come in, and so I guess we're going to say thank you, and the contact information is there. Whoops, we got one last question coming in. Here's a couple. Okay. Kristen, you got a minute for another couple questions?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a list of all the reports available in the software? So beyond these 10, do we have a library listing of all the reports that are available, Kristen, do you know?
I don't believe we do. We might. I know
Okay.
RCM has their library.
Mm-hmm.
So RCM itself has a library that is available that categorizes all the reports we've created and used. All the reports in the system altogether, I don't know, because again, you can request a custom report and that might only be in that one URL, or it might be something in all URLs.
So do you think it would be possible for us to publish that list of reports that the RCM group uses into Learn Prognosis maybe?
Yes, we can definitely work on that for you.
Okay. So we'll take that on as something to work on, and I will keep a list of webinar attendees so that we can send that link out to them when we have that information available. We had another quick question about where the AR rollover report was, and I believe you've got that listed in the locations and where the slides are, or maybe you just want to remind people where that AR rollover.
It's going to be in a reports tabular again. And if you want to have like a side-by-side comparison, just to do it on the whim, you can either do reports tabular or you can go into your aging. Your aging, if you run your aging, it will actually download and save in Prognosis under Settings Download Files. And if you go to the filter that says Aging, it'll list all your previous ones. So you don't necessarily have to compare this month to last month. You could compare this month to last quarter.
And that AR rollover report, can you run that report by employer instead of by insurance?
Yeah, if you have it listed as an AR group, it will show up. So the AR groups can be found, let me just flip screens really quick. So if you're in your insurance master, there's this AR group right here. It's going to be here for the employers as well. And you can create your own set of AR groups that will pull on the report. So we just have employer listed. If you want to list out the employer names, you can do that as well. And that can be done under Settings, Configuration, Group Types.
That sounds like that's exactly the information that asker was looking for. And I am going to send a quick message out to the whole group via chat so that if you have any feedback about this webinar, or if you have a request for topics for future webinars, that you can just email me directly and provide that feedback or make that request for information in future webinars. So looks like we got some of those requests coming in right now, but I went ahead and put my email in our chat to the audience. So hopefully you can grab the jmetzger@bizmaticsinc.com email right out of there. And just as a footnote, we are in process of completing our macro certification for EHR right now. So we'll have macro webinars coming up to showcase how we elegantly dovetailed all the macro reporting requirements into the EHR. So that will be coming up in the next probably month or so. So pay attention to the newsletter. We'll have all of our standard webinar updates in the newsletter and, of course, on the splash screen in the application. And so I'm going to go ahead and just thank Kristen for doing such a great job in fielding all these questions. Your experience is immensely appreciated. And I'm going to wish everybody who attended today a fine rest of your Tuesday, and we'll look forward to catching you again on our next webinar with Bizmatics. So thanks for attending, thanks for your great questions, and we'll be in touch again very soon. Thanks so much.
Thanks, bye.